hello, good morning. Hey, everybody. I hope you are all having a wonderful day so far today. My name is Josh, and welcome to Dead Men Streaming. Very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the chat window a little bit. We're going to scoot it up. I think I got it too big the last couple of times. I was struggling with it with my Fallout stream yesterday. All right, so I'm running things a little bit earlier than usual. I've got some plans this evening. It's Winter X Games on ESPN and Roku and a few other channels, and that's honestly one of my favorite times of the year. So I'll be tuning into that tonight. I hope you guys will too. In the meantime, let's take a look at our city and what's going on. Now, the last time we were here, we made this wonderful new neighborhood. We built up a whole bunch of interesting blocks, some low rent housing, some parking right here, which is already almost filled up, goodness, and a bunch of medium density residential. In the process, we jumped up from 50,000 to 72,000 just from tax revenue, which tells me we're doing something right. And in addition to that, we got rid of this really ugly highway system that I had built. I just didn't like it. I couldn't stand it, and I was mad at myself for letting it exist as long as it did. So we've fixed that. Now, that's not the only thing that we fixed. Or is it? We set up our districts, we solved our education crisis that had been developing, and it's probably not super happy with us right now. And that was by and large, but that was just what we did. That's not including what Paradox Interactive did. They released a content and bug fix patch, and I'm 100% not sure what's going to happen when I unpause this game. For the record, the patch was released on January, I think, the 21st or 22nd. I don't know. Time has no meaning in the winter. Um, and largely the mechanics changes were under the hood and things about seniors and sim age life and a bunch of other stuff. So when I unpause, it's possible we're either going to get a death wave or we're going to get some wonkiness with our job availability. Truthfully, I'm not sure. I haven't done this yet in real time. The other thing that it did change was something with the modern architecture buildings, specifically the college. Now, City Planner Plays pointed this one out. If you don't follow him, you should. He does what I do only a billion times better. The guy is an absolute genius. Um, and I get a lot of my opinions from him. But one of the things they changed, you remember, when we set this college, we were limited on where we could put these buildings because they were tagged so that they could only spawn on top of or right against this college. Well, they've changed that, and now these extension wings will fit anywhere. Unfortunately, well, let me phrase that, anywhere within the blue, which would be great if we hadn't already developed all this around it. The only way we could really take advantage of it is if we delete these row houses and that pathway, or maybe these. And I don't want to do that. The benefit is not going to outweigh anything. Already, we've got a student capacity of 6,600. We don't need to add extra 800 things at the cost of blowing up some of our residential. It'll look good when you do it. If you are watching this in advance of getting this college, or if you haven't yet, you'll be able to have much more freedom of placing your buildings, like we did with the university buildings over here, where we had the ability to place these university libraries off of the actual building snap. So that is something to keep in mind. And there was something over here that I didn't buy. What did I not buy? Oh, this extension wing. This alone adds an extra 1,000. We don't need it. I'm not going to spend the money right now. Although we do have plenty of money to spend. One thing that has just been irking me that is on my list of things to fix is this industrial park is about as bland gets, as is King's Field, and we never got around to putting in a small neighborhood over here. We'll be getting back over to this and addressing this as the needs of our city grow. The other thing is I want to move this down about a block to better fit in right about here, but that means that this recycling center is also going to have to be moved, and truthfully, well, we don't have to move it far. If we scoot it this over just a hair. Maybe we can go ahead and do this right now. We have the money, but that's the other thing. Is a question of money. It's 270,000 to move the recycling plant. It's another 125. I want to spend the money on other things. So when I get a spare 500 grand, we're going to come up and fix this just for the sake of my brain. Cargo thing over here. Once we move this, we can add additional one of these storage warehouses. Will it drastically affect the gameplay in any way? No, absolutely not. Moving it a block, in this case, is not going to do anything except for just better tweak the area, I guess, for zoning and just the general look and style of it. Speaking of look and style, things that probably need to be decorated at some point, we've got all this open space right over here. It's like open space, rail, field, rail, and while green space is good in real life, in an open field like this would actually not be the worst thing possible. Um, just for pollinators and people to run their dogs and everything else. It because we don't have grass, because we don't have any, standing objects. It just looks. It's like, oh, I'm walking down the sidewalk by a void, and I don't like it when we do our city playthroughs. So small nagging things like that, once you make some effort to building them up, can really make a big difference in the long term. Now, one thing, let's get to work on our actual problems. Take a look over here. This is a game fault. This building, this low rent building, is directly against this road. It is zoned to this road. It has developed on this road. There is nothing stopping people from getting into this building. But it's saying that there's no road here. It's a game bug. You will get this if you've laid out a building and for whatever reason it's not up against a road, or you've moved a road or deleted a road, and you will get some time to rebuild it, the road I mean, before the building will automatically delete itself in most cases. But sometimes buildings like that, buildings like this that are perfectly acceptably against the road are still going to throw this road required issue. Um, what can you do about it? Your option is really either to like run an alley to whatever back end of that building is there that's demanding an access point, or bulldozing it and hoping something better pops up. If you have one of the mods like Plopid, I think is what it's called, where you can, place a building of your choice, then you can solve it that way. But since we're running a vanilla build, we're doing the best we can with what we got. All right. Now, I've said all that. What I need to do next is bring this up on my phone so I can actually see chat in case I'm lucky enough for anybody to join me. If you are watching this on YouTube, please note you're not watching it live. You are watching it at this rate probably a couple of weeks after I do this video. So some of this information, it's going to be old news. Monday's patch on the 27th will be old news by the time you get to see this video. But I am running this on Twitch. We do have a Twitch chat window up, so when you hear me talking to people on the channel, you don't think I have completely lost what's left of my fuzzy little mind. And believe me when I say there are days when my mind is quite the very fuzz. Okie dokie, as they say in Fallout. Welcome to Lost Ontario. Here is my plan. I want to buy all of these squares. I can't afford to buy them right now. I want to buy them for two reasons. One, because I plan on doing a whole bunch of waterfront development over here. Two, I don't need to buy that square. Do I need that square right now? Kinda. Because I want to come up and buy probably all these, and then of course eventually those, and that loose square right there. Obviously this is $1 million more than we have. It's not worth getting a loan for. Oh, excuse me, 2.5 million, 2.6, because I want to run a highway from up here. I know we already have one going from one to the other up here, but I want to run a highway junction from here that's going to spin down into our coastline, into our area, and have it terminate still somewhere, I don't know, probably in the middle of this forest somewhere. Um, Not just for aesthetic purposes, but for actual viable transportation. We're, I don't know if I will go as far as to run it up this way, just have a sweeping highway coming down and up a southern eastbound highway. But I do know that we do eventually want this connection because when we start building here today, we're going to see so much traffic following in here, hitting these nodes, getting backed up, coming into this intersection, getting backed up, coming down here, and then splitting off of maybe this intersection, or at the very least, these intersections, and quite possibly getting backed up. It's not going to be helpful for us in the long run. Let me just exit out of that. At the very least, I want to take a look at buying at least those. We're probably not going to develop this far over today as much as I would like to. But going to go ahead and getting this so we can really establish a good grid pattern off of um, our industrial power and the rest of our city is going to be a halfway decent start, I think. The other option that I have, if I really want to jumpstart this party, is to just go ahead. How many would I need to buy? If I buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. If I do buy all those still, it's another 2.2. Now, the good news is we're printing money, and we're about to start printing a lot more. So we're in profit. We're doing good. And that's what I want us to be, especially because now we have two real options. First, we're going to run the simulation to earn more money. The goal for this, as I've said in the previous videos, is to build a harbor down over here, a cargo harbor over here-ish, and that's the other reason we're going to want a highway connection. And to get our rail system developed all the way down south so that we have a big hub somewhere within a couple blocks of where our harbor goes. I'm going to fast forward and hope that it gets light sometime soon. We're going to go ahead and start laying out some basic roads just to get a guideline for our grid. We can do grids in a couple of different ways. When we first started, we had the option to do this, but I didn't, and I'm not going to now either. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, if you come up to the grid tool, we can go from point A, okay, to point B, and then it'll drag out and it'll actually make a grid for us. This is not a terrible option if you have nothing at all. If you know that, say, you want to start here, run down here, and align with this. This is perfectly valid. I mean, I've got it almost exactly lined up the way I want it to be. It's not quite, but it doesn't look terrible. And this would be a great way to fill in some blank blocks. The only problem I have with this tool is that it doesn't take into consideration the, what do you call that? I want the gradient. It's not gradient, the contour lines, which in its benefit is right here in flat land. So I'll go ahead, I think in retrospect, and I'll use it once, but I'm going to be really careful about it. We're not going to, let's see, we're going to try. I'm going to say that. We are going to do our best, but we're going to try here. I'm going to lay a guide road first, though, so I know where I want that node to connect. That looks about 90 degrees to me. I think it looks about 90 degrees to you guys. All right, then I want a second guide road because I want to terminate that road there. Then we'll go ahead and get our grid. Or actually, you know what? Let me do another guide road. And that preserves our zoning. We know that, well, almost preserves our zoning. Yeah. That's going to be awfully close to allowing us to have 6 by 6 deep squares here, which, as you've noticed, is me trying to min max as much as I can. Ah, and it's a good thing we waited because look at these contour lines. This grid is not going to take these into consideration. So we'll do the same thing up here because this whole area here is largely just going to be residential. It's not going to be anything sexy. It just isn't. There's nothing, overly enticing about residential blocks. It's going to be a neighborhood. People are going to live there. We want them to live there, and we'll put a few special buildings, but it's we're now at the point where we're not just building a city. We're building cities. We're going for the plural. We have built a city. We have built a city of 50,000 people that currently exists in the middle of Lost Ontario in an otherwise absolutely boring location, off of a highway near some industrial and by a river that hasn't been developed yet. Now we start building big cities, real cities, skylines, happy lines, all the lines. And that's where things start to get a little more complicated. Yet at the same time, a little more cost effective, if you want to be honest. And a lot faster speed is how we're going to be picking up here, or what we're going to be picking up here. Okay, that's roughly our. Is that 6 or is that 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares. Yep, 6 squares up. We're good. Delete, delete, delete. All right, we're just going to do it on this one side. Okay, now let me show you this grid tool in action. Point A to point B, maintained at a 90. Coming up here, as close to that zone as we can make it. Which isn't going to be quite right. Yeah, let's do it from there, following that blue extra. And so here's where some of the problems come in. Sometimes it screws up your zoning in a big way, like you can see over here. There's no easy, convenient way to fix that other than deleting and restarting. And if you've got buildings that are not quite 6 by 6, 12 by 12, 12 by whatever, they're not going to develop the same appropriate way that you may want them to be. Now, let me turn off Snap to Zone Grid, see if that changes that any. And you notice one thing it definitely did not do is while we do have 6 squares deep, we're only getting 9 squares between these grids. And so for me, I don't use this tool. This is the one and only time I'm probably going to use it for you guys. But again, we're developing perfectly flat land. There's no real reason for me not to. Aside from the fact that this is about to be a traffic congestion nightmare. And I say that because we're just, with this particular grid, we've got so many entryways into this neighborhood that we're clogging up our main line leading down from town into the body of the city. Coming down through here, now we've got stoplights at every single one of these intersections. That's not good. We're going to change this a little bit. So let's take a look and, oops, that's 6 lane with a divider. Okay, we're going to put, now this 6 lane could have either gone here or it really could have gone down here. We've got a 6 lane right there. Let me now come over. I'm going to delete a couple of these connecting roads because I want to keep my traffic down to specific intersections in advance. Just something to sort of plot out and plan out around. While it will make those intersections a little more complicated, it will keep the flow of traffic moving a little bit easier for the bulk of the city. Okay, we'll go ahead and leave these connections. These are all 4s going on to 6s. We can live with that. We've got a 6, we've got a 4, we've got a 6, we got a 4. We'll drag this up to connect at 180. we'll drag this one up to connect at 180. Now we've got no real midpoint here now, do we? Why don't we delete all of these? We'll go ahead and delete that one too. And take another 6 lane. We're going to line it up it looks sort of straight. And then we'll go ahead and connect these 4 lanes together. Those 4 lanes together, but that's not all. We're going to come over. I'm going to go to my 1-lane pedestrian road. And we're going to change some of these inner roads to pedestrian. To encourage this to be a very walkable city. Same thing over here. We'll just convert these leading into those 4s as passenger streets. Okay, we'll match that on this side. Feel like I'm terraforming for a Borg cube, but here we go. The other downside of this is you notice that we haven't really done anything to protect our zoning. We've got breaks. We don't really have a lot of room for internal block paths. That's going to make a lot of sense. So we're going to sort of do the best that we can. Building your road networks before you put down any of your buildings is going to save you so much trouble in the long run, every single time. So we run this, and now look, we've got additional pedestrian paths. These didn't connect for whatever unknown reason. Now the next question is, that really screwed everything up. Let's undo that pedestrian pathway. Looks like we're taking off snap 2 just to fill that hole in. And that's good enough. I'll live. Okay, need to do the same thing over here, just a single pedestrian path going all the way north. We'll just cut it down to just 1 on this side, though, unless something gets really strange. Okay, so now we've got... Oh, I missed 1. Missed 2. Okay, so now we've made sure that this is a relatively walkable city, that people can get from point A to point B on foot, that they're not having to walk through too many intersections. We've got a major highway feeder right here. So as people come into this neighborhood, they'll come off the highway, come down, fill in right through here. What that tells me is, where are our major intersections likely to be? Where are the most popular places leading into this that are going to cause the most traffic congestion? Well, obviously, if they're coming in, the only entrance way we have right now for them to come in is the north. That's going to be right here, because the ones that are going over are going to want to come down this lane. Likely right here, again, they're coming over, they're going to want this lane. And likely right here, they're going to come over, they're going to want this lane. We will see some traffic, but not a lot right now. It's going to come from here, come into here, come into this roundabout, come over here, and come all the way down. We'll see some, but not a ton. let's take a look at our basic roundabouts for this section. We're not going to use this all the time, but for this section, we're going to use it. So I'm going to put brown on top, brown on bottom, red in the middle, just for, you know, attractiveness. And then we'll go ahead and put another brown one over here. Symmetry can be very beautiful when used correctly. All right, so now we've got this neighborhood set up. It's a little off balance. It's not quite perfect because these aren't as wide as those, but that's, I'm not changing it. I'm not, no. Mm-mm. No, not now. Not now. I'm going to leave that there because it is daylight for us, and that makes it a lot easier to see all of our contour lines coming through. And I want to build on this line really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and take our 4-lane road. Now, this isn't something we haven't done a whole lot with. The small contour lines, the thin ones, the light ones, they only represent about a meter, 2 meters drop. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10-ish. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so they're about a 1 meter-ish drop off. And these boulder lines, these represent a 10-meter drop off. The 1 meter drop offs will flatten out fairly easily. It's the 10-meter ones that you're going to run into trouble with getting buildings to display correctly all the time. And this is where the line respect the topography comes from. You're not going to be able to see a whole big difference right here. Although, when you get down to ground level, you're going to see there's a sizable chunk of road right here. There's a sizable chunk of deer. They're going to be very mad at me. The deer war will begin. When I drop a building right here, it's going to deform the terrain in this intersection. Next to nothing I can do about it unless I go smoothing. So we're pre-planning at this point. So I'm trying to avoid this kind of situation. And I don't really know if I can. Let me delete that. And we'll go ahead and delete this street too, because we didn't get that put down right the first time. So we're using our continuous tool here. We're making sure snap to guidelines is off. Yeah, snap to guidelines is off. We'll leave the other ones on. Oh, and snap to zoning cell length is also off, because sometimes that can create some weird glitches. I don't turn that off often enough. All right, we bring that up a little bit more. So by keeping our road aligned with the middle of this lane, it's going to allow us to preemptively control our gradient flow a little bit. Of course, the downside is when using the continuous rule tool and you're adjusting the lines, you get situations where it looks like this. If I was driving on that road, I would be flipping off the planner every day. Okay, so now we're actually going to basically have two different levels from when we put in some houses over here, and it's going to show off a little bit of depth of the city that doesn't exist in the rest of Los San. And we're still having these warning buttons pop up. We've got hearses, we've got medic. I'm truthfully not sure what's causing this. It shouldn't be this bad. We've got plenty of medical care. Those should be answered. Crematorium availability. I knew I was forgetting something. We did put down one new crematorium, but apparently it's not doing enough for our city. It's got, what? Oh, it's already maxed out its processing speed tremendously. It's not maxed out its videos, but they're being overwhelmed. That's likely because of that patch that came out earlier this week. So don't worry about it. I'm just going to keep a slight eye on it. It's so far not really affecting our city in a super negative way. Okay. However, things that are interfering with our city in a negative way is unreliable mail coverage, small homes, and high noise pollution. Small homes, as we've talked about, is a big issue. That seems to be more game complainy than it does anything else. Mail's a problem. Let's fix that, and then we'll get back down south. Okay, so what's being serviced by her mail? Not enough. Our city is absolutely drowning in mail, and it's only going to get worse as we expand. Let's fix this. Okay. So previously, I think the only thing we have down right now is a small post office with a maximum mailbox capacity of 200 and 4 post vans. The regular post office can do 100,000 with 500, so four score increase, 4 times increase, I mean. And the Japanese post office, 520 vans. We'll go ahead and put down the larger post van. Now, it should be noted these do cause noise pollution. Not a lot, but enough that you don't necessarily want to stick it next to a residential area per se. However, if you do already have something that's noisy, like a train station near your residential, it shouldn't complicate things much worse, but it still can. So, just looking at the map right now, all of our new residential that we put down has next to no mail coverage. Let's look for a. We could stick it over here. If we do, we'll get coverage through most, but not all, the city. This does have a radius to it. We're actually going to put down 2 post offices, I think, since we can't afford them right now. They are 250,000, but right now we're making. Wow, we jumped up a lot. We're making almost 100,000 an hour. I thought we were getting an increase. So I'm going to go ahead, bite the bullet. I've already put some office buildings over here on this block, so we can go ahead and sneak this in, I think, and we'll put it on that 6 lane. And this is close enough to all this residential and everything else that it doesn't feel super out of place or out of the way. So we slide that in. Now, this does allow for 2 extra things: a mail storage extension and a post office van garage, neither of which need to be attached. Well, at least the garage doesn't. Hold on. Yeah, neither of which need to be attached directly to the building. That said, it sort of makes more sense to have the post office garage pressed up against the post office, at least in my mind. Let me take a look. Yeah, we'll do that mail extension that we don't really need. We'll slip that right there. Then I'm going to run an alley for looks anyways. Right behind it. And then I'm going to delete it because it interfered with that. It broke it anyways. Of course it did. That's awesome. I am going to come over here though and quickly get rid of all the extra intersections that caused and turn those stop lights into stop signs, because that's just stupid. Okay. All right, so that was one garage. We'll go ahead and put down a second one. Line it up here with the alleyway. Come over here for. They changed the landscaping and park icons. Don't have any idea why, but they did. And it is messing with me. And I'm just going to run a couple of park paths down there, because if there's one thing the federal government loves, it's unsecured postal access. Okay. So this is now churning away at the mail. This is going to help out a lot, but that's not the only thing you have to do when you put mailboxes or post offices down. You also have to install some mailboxes, which we haven't done. Mailboxes keep your citizens from having to go all the way to a post office. It makes them happier that way. It's best just to load them up in residential locations or anywhere where people are going, like a train station, university complex, college, or other. So we've already got one on that block. Let's go ahead and slide one on that side. Put an extra one up here since they're complaining. One over here by the high school. And they are super cheap. They're a whopping $100 a pop. We've already got some up here. They're just not getting a whole lot of service. Now let's slide in that smaller post office. Another one. We'll stick it up here next to all these farms and things. That feels appropriate. It has one upgrade, and that is for mail storage extension. It builds in on the footprint. I'm going to select its operating district as right up here to keep it focusing on the people of Kings Field. Go back to our mailboxes. Put a mailbox on that side, mailbox on that side, mailbox down here in the middle. These already have mailboxes. We'll stick a third one over there. All right. We're not going to see any immediate change, although you can already tell there's a huge fleet of postal service trucks rushing out everywhere, making everybody happy. So that's a good thing for us. And that preemptively solves additional headaches. And wow, it gets dark so fast in this game, it drives me insane. Next thing I'm doing is taking a drink. Okay, we're not done gridding, we're not done designing, and there's a few things I want to make sure we have in place before we even talk about moving people in over here down in the northern part of Strawberry Dreams. Um, my number one fear, just so you guys know, is that we're going to come to a point where we're going to have traffic backing up really badly along the length of this road. So somewhere in here, and I'm thinking right about here, we're going to install a major roundabout. Honestly, it should have gone right there. We're going to install a major roundabout that's not going to look like one of the pre-builts. It's going to be an actual roundabout made up of 4 and 6 lanes. So I'm just sort of going to block off that section for right now. We're going to avoid developing anything too much right there. We're going to focus our developments up on this other area, but we're going to also be cognizant of the fact that we are developing some of our more crucial infrastructure out from that section. So let's take a look at this 6-lane road and ask ourselves, should we go ahead and advance it to 8-lane? I don't think so. I think we'll be fine as it is with 6. So let's go ahead and install a large connector. And just to be clear, of course not, I can't fathom this would be how a real world city development would be, where you would say, hey, I'm going to take up, 40 miles of space and lay all my roads down before I put a single building in. Roads take time, highways take forever. It's not Western logical that it would happen. Of course, in the Western world, there's not as much space as there is in some larger developing countries that are moving out into open fields and things. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I know they do this kind of thing over in China for some of their major city developments and stuff. So take it for what it is. I'm doing it this way because this way I'm less likely to make any mistakes I'm going to be super angry about. Okay. So we're still good so far. What we're not going to do, though, is go into development mode of breaking this down into smaller blocks. The focus is just going to be on making sure that we are not shooting ourselves in the foot. Okay. And we're looking for where our major network nodes are going to end up being. And the first one... yeah, it's probably going to be right about down here. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that roundabout I mentioned. Now that I have quasi-mapped it out in my head. And in order to do this, we're going to have to do a couple of techniques that I have not personally mastered. So, yay! We all be learning some stuff today. Only replace most of the letters and stuff for reasons. So I gave this a bit of thought, and I'm going to credit Mike Builds. If you don't watch his channel, you should. The guy is an absolute freaking genius for how we are going to go about this. We're going to start with a one-way, one-lane road coming right out of there, and then another one-lane, one-way road if we can fit them in. Then I'm going to move them pretty far apart. Basically get them a whole entire square away. Then we're going to switch over to our 4-lane road. We're going to go down. We'll just go, I think 10 meters is enough. This is the point where I'm getting out my notepad, so bear with me. My short-term memory isn't what it used to be, and it was never that good to start with, so I want this to go... Okay, first of all, we do want to make sure we are retaining our 180 degrees. So I want this down. I want our halfway point to be 100 meters. $101 apparently. We're going to go. So 101, we want this to match with a 9.9 angle. Okay. Then I'm going to want to go an additional, let's give ourselves a good bit of space here. Let's say I want to go an additional 120, and then we go back up to 0, and that was 101 meters. We're probably way overbuilding this. Okay, we've got that. So far, so good. What this is going to look like a lot is going to be that single point interchange that we use a lot of. Just to let you guys know what the ultimate look and feel of this is going to be. It's going to be very much like that. And then we'll have to delete that connector road as well. So we do the same thing over here. Get our 1-lane road. We put it on that far node. Whoops. Why in the world did that select all those things? We want this to go. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, it's being a pain, so we'll just snap to geometry, snap to 90. There you go. Guide road 1. Guide road 2. Take off, snap to geometry. Scoot it over. Get it to go a full square. Now we had 1 square over, right? Yeah, that looks about right. I think. No, I think we did 2 squares. Dragging it over 2 full squares. We've got to correct that direction. Put our snap to geometry back on so we don't accidentally move it. Oh, and did I screw that up over there too? No, I've got it right. Okay, so we've got that on like that. Come to the middle of this node. Drag up. So our numbers and balances should be right about, well, no, they're off. Yeah, because I wasn't thinking. I was not thinking. There's a reason we did it the first way and wrote down the numbers we wrote down. Okay, let's try this again. All right, we're going to bring this up as close as we can with our 8-lane road. Okay, then this is really going to want to touch that there. There we go. There we go. This will make this a little bit difficult, so we're going to downgrade this 8 lane to a 6 lane and see if that makes our life any easier. It will not. What's my best way to do this, you think? Let's delete that node segment. Then we do our adjust. Oops. That was too far over. That was way too far over. You messed that up. Grab the wrong thing. You do have to be of steady hand while you do this, and that is not something that I am ever known for. So by 1 square, by 2nd square, okay. And then by green lantern's light, correct. Okay, that's a little bit better. Then we have to drop down, come up. I said come up. Okay. And then, hey, what do you know? That was just about 101 meters. Okay. Now, you may be asking yourselves, why in the world would I want to do this? And that answer is pretty simple. We're going to run 1 lane there, 1 lane there, 1 lane there, 1 lane right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab another 8-lane divided road. Pick the middle. Let's loop that first to ensure we're getting our 90s. Got our middle. Ran it down the center. Boo and ya. Let's connect these correctly. If I'd been smart, I would have written down these distances, but I was not smart enough to do that. Distances look pretty good to me. Distances look completely off to me. So we know we want them to go that way to that way, so we'll just write this down. This is what? 60 meters? Okay, 60 meters there, should be 60 meters there. It's just about this close enough, so we drag this over 60 meters. $59.6 is good enough for me. I hope it's good enough for you. Okay, we do the same thing. Okay, and now we've got our very own semi-diverging diamond interchange right here. So through traffic is just going to go straight all the way down. Anybody that's coming in from the west off of what's eventually going to be another main road is going to be able to go all the way from west to east, east to west, north to south, south, north to south, and not have to worry about any of it. Lastly, because we don't need to worry so much about the middle traffic, we are going to go ahead and convert this down to a 6-lane road on all 3 segments. I hope it doesn't break the style. Nope, it's good. And then lastly, go ahead and slip into asymmetrical. Ones of those. We cannot slip in roundabouts here, I don't think, unless we go for super small ones. But hey, the truth, well, hey, look, we can go with small. We can go with medium. Can we go with large? Cannot go with large. We'll go ahead and put in a couple of medium tree roundabouts right here at the mouth to encourage the traffic flow to flow correctly. Now, last but not least, the only thing we haven't done is to do something for our pedestrian traffic, which we likely will eventually have. So let's go ahead and solve that problem, because pedestrians are pedestrian. Let me also save and make our lives a little happier that way. Just to be on the safe side, we have done quite a bit with our road network. And in case you're wondering, Josh, I wanted to play a cities game. Why does it feel like I'm playing a traffic simulator? Look, I don't know what to tell you here. You're playing a traffic simulator. Like there's no nice way to put it. You're playing a traffic simulator in a game where traffic decisions weirdly don't seem to matter much. It matters in the complaints you get and how fast your city's going to zone. And I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that, but it is what it is. All right. Now, pedestrian highways to cross the road apparently have to be at 6.25 meters, so that's the height we're going to choose for this pedestrian pathway, to run it all the way across all of these roads, and then come down. Keep a note of this. We're going to call this to 76 meters on our down. So we want this to go down all the way to 0 at 76 meters. That's not wide enough on this side. So our numbers didn't perfectly line up, but hey, they're better than nothing. We'll go ahead, we'll replicate that on this side as well. Again, though, I don't want people crossing the road on this. So in fact, let me not. Let me reconsider that a little bit, because what I want people to do is to come up before this intersection. Because when they hit the pedestrian crossings or pedestrian traffic, it's just going to create a headache for us. It'll slow down the traffic every single freaking time. 5, 6. Okay. Should be enough to cross. That is not going to be enough to cross that. 6 is not enough to cross an 8 lane. What's enough to cross an 8 lane? Can I not cross an 8 lane? I can cross an 8 lane. I know I can. I've done it before. Well, gang, there, we're going to cross right there. And we'll do the same thing over here. Yeah, my numbers were off on these. We haven't done a lot so far with aligning our pedestrian paths for these larger, higher traffic interchanges. We've ignored them, really. We really have. We ignored them up here to our detriment. We ignore them over here, again, detriment. And everywhere else we've done it. And we really shouldn't. I'm making the effort right here because this is going to be part of a very big transportation hub leading to the sea. Even though the sea won't get that much traffic, feeding into this area will. And I strongly suspect that it's going to increase our pedestrian traffic through this area exponentially. And I'm trying to avoid situations where we just get overwhelmed with pedestrian traffic choices. And I don't want our city to end up having a beautiful layout that is unmanageable in terms in terms of, you know, cars being stuck, people not going the way they're supposed to go, which has happened to me. I've had a couple of cities I absolutely love get completely wrecked because the game simulation was like, well, you don't have a pathway right here. And it's kind of demoralizing in the long run. I'm not going to lie. So we're just going to go ahead and tweak as much as we can in advance. And you're not going to see much, if any, use on this right now. You really will not. But we're going to make it as useful as possible. And preemptively try to solve some of our eventual headaches that we'll get just by doing some pre-planning and working to make some intelligent choices while we've got the ability to. And if you really feel stuck on being, oh, didn't get that down low enough. If you really feel like being stuck on symmetry and stuff, always be sure to write down your numbers, plot it out. I am, but I'm not at the same time. Like, I am on certain things, but smaller things aren't gonna break my heart as bad. Okay, now we have got a perfectly drivable, massive, square-shaped, roundabout slash diverging diamond interchange right here with full pedestrian access. And the last thing that we have to do is to get rid of these pedestrian crossings so they won't ignore everything we just did. They will, of course. And are you kidding me? Look at that. Look at that. BS right there. Well, at least it only BS'd on one side. Now, I'm not so worried about putting in a crosswalk up here so much. Well, we purposefully didn't include that. These citizens are going to have another road likely coming right about in there. Same on this side, so there'll be an additional crossing space there. Where in the world are you going, Carmen Sandiego? Okay, you're a road maintenance vehicle. You're allowed. So, last thing we got to fix. That. What the heck? Just what the heck was that? You better not do it again. All right, thank you. Still got to clear that though. Still got to save it though. And now, when we have enough money to buy those tiles, we'll be able to connect an 8-lane transit road right all the way through here. And now that we spent all that time laying out these roads, we're going to delete this chunk of it. I know I said what I said. At the time, it looked right. Probably should have moved this down instead and met it up with that, but we didn't. Because I didn't. Okay, and I'm not doing it again. Insert Captain Jack Sparrow reference here, but we will try to pay attention to the contour lines just a hair. If nothing else other than so you guys can tell me you told me so in the comments. Or I told myself so. Either way works, really. Okay, no contour lines over here in this direction. So we're actually good to connect that straight all the way to the coast, which we will, although we will end up deleting it. Part of it, rephrasing, part of it. Okay, 90 to 90. And I say that because since this is here, that 8-lane will connect with that 8-lane. And that's going to deserve a very, very large roundup. I'll give it a... Yeah, you. We'll delete that. And then completely give this game a conniption. Okay, don't ask me how that worked. I don't know. Ever see somebody give a city simulation a stroke before? You just did. Okay. All right. And this hillside area is going to be a topic for future consideration. I am going to want to... Why did I make that a 4? I don't know. Okay, I am going to want to go ahead and just... Like, I sort of know what I want to do with this, and that's not it. I don't feel like buying that tile and fixing that up just yet. I don't like the way this road looks after all the effort we've taken to grid everything up. Now, funny story, I mentioned initially that my goal was to buy all of these tiles down here, but we didn't have enough money, and oh my goodness, time was really getting away from us, and I wanted to build all this highway situation. And hey, we did. Hey, because we've... Wow. Because we've been staffing all of our jobs and filling up all this new industrial and the office and adults have moved in, we're making 131 grand an hour right now. So all those things that I sort of mentioned that I wanted to do, what do you know, my friends? I know. Because I just know me and I know I'm going to want that one. Well, I'm going to want that one too. So when you buy your tiles in this game, make sure you're only buying the tiles that you need at any given moment. You do accumulate tile upkeep on them, and it can really complicate things for you going forward. I have a tendency of overbuying my tiles, and that's not a good thing. So let's focus on snapping up those 4 first. All right, so we've got a major interchange right here that we're going to use. Keep in mind, city center is usually defined by something like this in terms of layout. Like this is a city corner. This is going to be a major intersection if we play our cards right and develop in all the directions I want to go. Okay. I don't want to touch this rail. I do want to touch a save game. I do want to pause. You should always pause whenever you're getting ready to work on your rail if it's part of a major line, so you're not crashing the game as you're putting it together or terminating all of your rail lines. Just save yourself the headache, put it on pause, and definitely pause if you're getting ready to sever the only entrance to your city and or your power line connections that may be responsible for a sizable chunk of your income. Just trust the streamer. Trust the streamer. Okay, nothing too fancy up here. Let's go for a 4-level cloverleaf. Will likely be enough to handle secondary north and primary south, I would think. So pick a spot that looks good. I'm going a little closer to the edge of the map than I really need to. Okay, done. Now those are 2 lanes coming into A3. We can just keep them as they are. Oh, wrong direction. Okay. Fix that. Okay, that's 1 down, 1 to go. Go ahead and maintain these at 3 lanes. No reason to shrink them down right here. We'll upgrade all of these into 3 lanes though. We'll have to delete some of the rail tracks. That special rail we built to make this fit. And we'll just delete all that. Okay, that reconnects to that trunk line. And then we have to figure out how we're going to get this over there. I'm going to say the easiest way is just to go under the highway. Surely that's tall enough. Yeah, just a matter of getting it under the right lanes and under the pylons would be the problem. Okay, don't be afraid to use your camera to look in those hard to reach places. It really will make your life a lot easier. Okay, And then we'll come up. We'll swing into that. Get that as even as we can. There we go. Come over. Looks a little wonky, but reasonable. I'll take it. Okay, next thing to do will be to connect the power lines. Now, power lines may be... Oh, insanely easy. Okay, they fit over that just perfectly. Sometimes they get cranky. In my defense, sometimes they get cranky. And then we'll cap that off like we have 1,000 times before. Okay, we don't want to cap off that one. We do want to put the game in play to make up some of that money we just spent. All right, now the next thing is to sort of try to figure out exactly how I want this curvature to go. There's no way that I know of to have the zone overlay map on buying tiles open while you're trying to do something like this, so I'm going to have to rely on my short-term memory. So automatically right now, we need a Tetris Z piece coming out 1 square away, so we'll go buy those. Oops, wrong button. So our Z piece 1 square away, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're playing with blocks. Okay, come down, grab this. I actually do want this highway to be elevated. We are not going to be doing a drop off with this. This is going to make it harder when I do interchanges later in this build off of this, but that's not even a next week Josh problem. That is like, I don't know, maybe sometime next month Josh problem. But what I'm thinking is we're going to have developments along the shoreline, and then people are going to be driving down the highway, and they're going to be able to see the river and the coast as they get down here, man. And, you know, just basically getting high as I drive along. So we're going to do that there. It is going to make our on and off ramps a little more complicated because we're going to want a connection there. Definitely is going to be one of our first ones. All right, but still got places to go with this. So the next, we really just, need another Z piece right here. If we stay at 180, we'll need, actually no, we'll need an L. We'll get an L piece going on. No, we'll just buy all 5 of them. Once you start making enough money an hour, you're going to be able to do stuff like this conveniently. It's not going to be an issue. Like, you'll notice a dent. We will notice this dent as it starts to pile up. But once we get the advantages of having the extra highway system in, it's not going to be something as noticeable or something that's going to break your heart. Okay, here though is where we need to start planning for where we want to have our next highway interchange or highway on and off. Because obviously we're not going to be running this highway through all of this. We've already discussed ways we can do that, and they're all bad. So what I think I'm going to do is to plan on having this highway end right over here and sort of have this be our highway interchange, coming on, coming off. It's not going to be the most ideal thing on the planet, or at the very least, we'll at least cut down here. So we know that we're going to need a small L, 3 more tiles right here. Let's snap those up. Okay, and once we get this done, I am going to have to go. But once we get this done, we're good to start building our harbor and developing our city, and then we're going to grow. We're going to grow in a big way. So let's go ahead, snap here. Now this is the point where we're going to want to go ahead and let it drop down to ground level for intersection purposes. For today, we're just going to go ahead and just straight connect this right into all of this network. Let's fix our roads right here. Okay, get rid of our pedestrian crossing. Get rid of our stop light since we no longer have a pedestrian crossing. And then last but not least, you notice 3 into 4, we're getting a turn lane right here that we do not want. It is not going to help us out. It is just going to make traffic a headache. So no left turn. They're forced to go up it. The only thing we can really do to fix that, we could convert all of these, either this into a 6 lane, which wouldn't be the worst idea, or we can convert these into 4 lanes. We've already built them. We've gone to all this effort. Let's just go ahead and convert this into 6. However, let's take off snap to geometry so we can try to line that up fairly close. Downside is, because we moved, we've got to move these paths as well. Because when you lay your pedestrian pass, I don't know if you've noticed this, but if we drag it into the roadway, it puts in a pedestrian stop. If we drag it to the edge of the roadway and let the nodes connect without forcing it, it doesn't create a pedestrian walk path. All right, now, as people come in, they're going to have the opportunity to, instead of going all the way through the city and all the way down through here, we now have a nice little expressway leading all the way down into the city proper. And finally, over here, we just have this little 6-lane road next to our power plant and our automotive factory. We're going to try. Oh, it fits on the first try. Holy cannoli, kiddos. Okay. Well, if it's going to be nice enough to do that, we will finish up our diverging diamond intersection right now. Make sure that you're off of double. Oops. Okay. That is north to south. I do want to put in a roundabout here, so we're going to have to tweak this a little bit. There we go. It's really easier to run the nodes first and then install the roundabout, but sometimes that does mean you have to go back and rerun the road. It's just part of the game. What can I say? What's my phone blowing up for? Of course, watch it not letting me do it now. Okay, so this is just basically a poor man's diverging diamond. This is very simple. Cars want to get on, they come on. Cars want to get off the highway, they get off the highway. Simple, basic, off-ramps, some with a turn, some without. Is it the sexiest thing on the planet? Absolutely freaking not. Is it going to get the job done? In some ways, yes. Now, what this is not going to be is a high traffic, high volume intersection. And if you notice that the game tries to turn it into one, then you're going to want to make an effort to prevent that. And that means you'll be coming back and you'll be setting up an actual real roadway network, one of these style interchanges or something like that. Ew. Just ew. Maybe I got that too high. It helps if I click on the right road network. Also helps if it actually connects to the highway in question. It's really wanting to stretch that out right there for reasons that I do not even pretend to understand. Come on. Come on. Be a good highway network for me. I said be a good highway network for me. Wow, it is really being stubborn about this, and I don't get why. Maybe because it thinks that node was all the way down there. I guess. I don't know. I'm only going to give this another minute or so. It's not even letting me put in a small roundabout right there. Okay, it took a large roundabout. That's not taking any roundabout. You know, roundabouts, while nice, are not the end all be all to life solutions. Sometimes they just be. Okay. As you can see, this is already getting some traffic. Let's click on Briar Rose Street, click on the pathfinding tool, see where people are going. They are coming in off of Florence Highway, or Thornton, I guess, hitting Pacific. Oh, Pacific, yeah, they're actually hitting Pacific Highway. Coming all the way down, they're getting off at this diverging diamond. They're heading east and going up into the main city up here. So this has already started to reduce traffic congestion coming in from that side, and it will inspire traffic to come down through this way and connect into this as we develop out this whole area. And just for future headache me, because I'm trying to be nice to myself. There. You didn't see me buy all those, but I did. And honestly, right now the rent is not going to be that bad. We're still going to have to deal with this, but since we're already making over $100,000 an hour, I'm very not unhappy. But that's my phone, everybody. My phone is a Porg, so I will get with you all later. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.